Olympia, where Theseus and Pirithous, named, are seated together on a chair, arms held out in supplication, while Heracles approaches, about to draw his sword. 50. The earliest literary mention of the rescue occurs in Euripides, where Heracles saves Theseus, with no mention of Pirithous. 51. In the lost play Pirithous, both heroes are rescued. 52. While in the rationalized account of Philochorus, Heracles was able to rescue Theseus, but not Pirithous. 53. In one place Diodorus says Heracles brought back both Theseus and Pirithous, by the favor of Persephone. 54. While in another he says that Pirithous remained in Hades, or according to some writers of myth that neither Theseus nor Pirithous returned. 55. Both are rescued in Hyginus' capture. There are various versions of how Heracles accomplished Cerberus' capture. 58. According to Apollodorus, Heracles asked Hades for Cerberus, and Hades told Heracles he would allow him to take Cerberus only if he mastered him without the use of the weapons which he carried, and so, using his lion skin as a shield, Heracles squeezed Cerberus around the head until he submitted. 59. In some early sources Cerberus' capture seems to involve Heracles fighting Hades. Homer, Iliad 5.395-397, has Hades injured by an arrow shot by Heracles. 60. A scholium to the Iliad passage explains that Hades had commanded that Heracles master Cerberus without shield or iron. 61. Heracles did this, by, as in Apollodorus, using his lion skin instead of his shield, and making stone points for his arrows, but when Hades still opposed him, Heracles shot Hades in anger. Consistent with the no iron requirement, on an early 6th century BC lost Corinthian cup, Heracles is shown attacking Hades with a stone. 62. While the iconographic tradition, from c. 560 BC, often shows Heracles using his wooden club against Cerberus. 63. Euripides has Amphitryon ask Heracles, "Did you conquer him in fight, or receive him from the goddess i.e. Persephone?" To which Heracles answers, "In fight." 64. And the Pirithous fragment says that Heracles overcame the beast by force. 65. However, according to Diodorus, Persephone welcomed Heracles like a brother and gave Cerberus in chains to Heracles. 66. Aristophanes has Heracles seize Cerberus in a stranglehold and run off. 67. While Seneca has Heracles again use his lion skin as shield, and his wooden club, to subdue Cerberus, after which a quailing Hades and Persephone allow Heracles to lead a chained and submissive Cerberus away. 68. Cerberus is often shown being chained, and Ovid tells that Heracles dragged the three-headed Cerberus with chains of adamant. Exit from the underworld. There were several locations which were said to be the place where Heracles brought up Cerberus from the underworld. 70. The geographer Strabo, 63-64 BC AD 24, reports that according to the myth writers Cerberus was brought up at Tenaron. 71. The same place where Euripides has Heracles enter the underworld. Seneca has Heracles enter and exit at Tenaron. 72. Apollodorus, although he has Heracles enter at Tenaron, has him exit at Troezen. 73. The geographer Pausanias tells us that there was a temple at Troezen with altars to the gods said to rule under the earth, where it was said that, in addition to Cerberus being dragged up by Heracles, Semele was supposed to have been brought up out of the underworld by Dionysus. 74. Another tradition had Cerberus brought up at Heraclea Pontica, the same place which Xenophon had earlier associated with Heracles' descent, and the cause of the poisonous plant aconite which grew there in abundance. 75. Herodorus of Heraclea and Euphorion said that when Heracles brought Cerberus up from the underworld at Heraclea, Cerberus vomited bile from which the aconite plant grew up. 76. Ovid also makes Cerberus the cause of the poisonous aconite, saying that on the shores of Scythia, upon leaving the underworld, as Cerberus was being dragged by Heracles from a cave, dazzled by the unaccustomed daylight, Cerberus spewed out a poison foam, which made the aconite plants growing there poisonous. 77. Seneca's Cerberus too, like Ovid's, reacts violently to his first sight of daylight. Enraged, the previously submissive Cerberus struggles furiously, and Heracles and Theseus must together drag Cerberus into the light. 78. Pausanias reports that according to local legend Cerberus was brought up through a chasm in the earth dedicated to Clymenus, Hades, next to the sanctuary of Thonia at Hermione, and in Euripides' Heracles, though Euripides does not say that Cerberus was brought out there, he has Cerberus kept for a while in the grove of Thonia at Hermione. 79. Pausanias also mentions that at Mount Laphistion in Boeotia, that there was a statue of Heracles Cherops, with bright eyes, where the Boeotians said Heracles brought up Cerberus. 80 other locations which perhaps were also associated with Cerberus being brought out of the underworld include Hierapolis, Thesprotia, and Emia near Mycenae. Presented to Eurystheus, returned to Hades. In some accounts, after bringing Cerberus up from the underworld, Heracles paraded the captured Cerberus through Greece. 82. Euphorion has Heracles lead Cerberus through Medea in Argolis, as women and children watch in fear. 83. And Diodorus Siculus says of Cerberus, that Heracles carried him away to the amazement of all and exhibited him to men. 84. Seneca has Juno complain of Heracles high-handedly parading the Black Hound through Argive cities. 85. And Heracles greeted by laurel-wreathed crowds, singing his praises. 86. Then, according to Apollodorus, Heracles showed Cerberus to Eurystheus, as commanded, after which he returned Cerberus to the underworld. 87. However, according to Hesychus of Alexandria, Cerberus escaped, presumably returning to the underworld on his own. The earliest mentions of Cerberus, c. 8th-7th century BC, occur in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and Hesiod's Theogony. 89. Homer does not name or describe Cerberus, but simply refers to Heracles being sent by Eurystheus to fetch the Hound of Hades, with Hermes and Athena as his guides. 90. And, in a possible reference to Cerberus' capture, that Heracles shot Hades with an arrow. 91. According to Hesiod, Cerberus was the offspring of the monsters Echidna and Typhon, was 50-headed, ate raw flesh, and was the brazen-voiced Hound of Hades. 92. Who fawns on those that enter the house of Hades, but eats those who try to leave. Stesichorus, c. 630–555 BC, apparently wrote a poem called Cerberus, of which virtually nothing remains. 94. However, the early 6th century BC lost Corinthian cup from Argos, which showed a single head, and snakes growing out from many places on his body. 95. Was possibly influenced by Stesichorus' poem. 96. The mid-6th century BC cup from Laconia gives Cerberus 3 heads and a snake tail, which eventually becomes the standard representation. 97. Pindar, c. 522 c. 443 BC, apparently gave Cerberus 100 heads. 98. Bacchylides, 5th century BC, also mentions Heracles bringing Cerberus up from the underworld, with no further details. 99. Sophocles, c. 495 c. 405 BC, in his Women of Trachis, makes Cerberus 3-headed 100, and in his Oedipus at Colonus, the chorus asks that Oedipus be allowed to pass the gates of the underworld undisturbed by Cerberus, called here the untamable watcher of Hades. 101. Euripides, c. 480–406 BC, describes Cerberus as 3-headed 102 and 3-bodied 103. Says that Heracles entered the underworld at Tenaron. 104. Has Heracles say that Cerberus was not given to him by Persephone, but rather he fought and conquered Cerberus, for I had been lucky enough to witness the rites of the initiated, an apparent reference to his initiation into the Eleusinian mysteries. 105. And says that the capture of Cerberus was the last of Heracles' labors. 106. The lost play Perthouse, attributed to either Euripides or his late contemporary Critias, has Heracles say that he came to the underworld at the command of Eurystheus, who had ordered him to bring back Cerberus alive, not because he wanted to see Cerberus, but only because Eurystheus thought Heracles would not be able to accomplish the task, and that Heracles overcame the beast and received favor from the gods.